Hello again, and welcome to the latest bulletin from Haverhill UK News, brought to you by Haverhill TV. In the news for today, Friday, May the 10th, Councillors agree a watered-down mention of pedestrian improvements to High Street plans in Vision 2031 final draft. A historic trackway should be protected in Havebury's over 55s development in Withersfield Road. And residents cram in to hear about Iron Age, Roman and Anglo-Saxon finds at the archaeological dig at Hanchet End. In the wake of St Edmundsbury Borough Council planners axing the aspiration of pedestrianising Haverhill High Street, councillors have forced a watered-down wording change. The planners had brought their final draft of Vision 2031 document, which covers development in St Edmundsbury for the next 20 years, for Haverhill Area Working Party to approve at their meeting yesterday. Councillors Maureen Byrne and Anne Gower homed in on the removal of a commitment to pedestrianise Haverhill High Street, and were told by Planning Policy Director Ian Poole that it had been done because banning traffic was not currently deliverable. The document goes to a government planning inspector, along with public comments on it, for approval, and Mr Poole said the inspector would pick up on undeliverability. Councillor Byrne highlighted the lack of mention of rail renewal in the document, and Mr Poole said this was also considered undeliverable by officers. Councillor Gower claimed the change about pedestrianisation was not consistent with another part of the document, and Mr Poole suggested the aspiration could be altered to include enhance the high street, including the pedestrian environment. Councillors agreed that change and approved the whole document, which will go out to public consultation from June the 18th to August the 9th. Haverhill Town Council Planning Committee had a visit from concerned residents on Tuesday before they debated Havebury Housing Partnership's plans for redeveloping the bungalows in Withersfield Road and land behind them for over 55s to replace William Blake Court sheltered accommodation. Residents were most concerned to preserve the historic trackway known as Occupation Road, which runs through the site beside the Stour Brook. The brook and the track will have to be crossed by vehicle and pedestrian bridges to give access to the land behind, where a bungalow development is planned among flowering fruit trees. The 1960s bungalows which front onto the main road will be replaced with three-storey homes, and some residents were also concerned about overlooking of houses opposite. Councillors supported the planning applications, which will go before St Edmundsbury Borough Council for decision, but in their comments asked for various conditions, including a 7-foot clearance under the bridges for people walking along Occupation Road. A new-look Haverhill show will take place on July the 21st after the Town Council has backed a group of town business people to run it. A campaign led by local photographer David Doughty to put on an all-new show for Haverhill on the recreation ground received the support of Haverhill Town Council last week. It will be combined with the council's own Big Bash event. Police are appealing for information after a dog attacked and killed a cat in Haverhill. The incident occurred at 11 a.m. on an address in Connaught Road. The cat had been sitting on the front doorstep of its owner's house when they heard noises and barking outside the front of the house. When they went to see what was happening, the cat was found dead on the doorstep, and a man was seen running away with the dog, dropping its lead in the process. Police would like to speak to the man about the attack. He was thought to be wearing a brown jacket, and the dog is described as having grey and white spots. Anyone with information about this incident is asked to contact PC Laura Harris at Haverhill Police Station on 101 or Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. And finally, a bit of quite old news. Sometime in the late Iron Age, just over 2,000 years ago, someone created a trackway up onto the ridge at Hanchet End and made a little enclosure to farm. After the Romans came to Britain and native people absorbed their culture, the farmers at Hanchet End expanded their enclosures in a series of phases, with more extensive ditches and various buildings, probably for storage, and buried some of their dead there as well. When the Anglo-Saxons came in the 5th century, the farming went on and someone built a small hall, like the reconstructed houses at West Stowe. A woman of some status was buried there with her brooches, beads and keys. How do we know all this? Archaeologists carried out a dig there last year prior to development of the research park. The developers Carisbrooke had to pay £150,000 for it as part of their planning permission. Their director, Nick Rumsey, arranged for Michelle Collings from Headland Archaeology, who did the dig, to come to Haverhill Days Inn Hotel and give a talk about what they had found. He was a bit taken aback when around 70 people turned up and crammed into the room to hear the talk and see the finds on Wednesday evening. The finds are still being analysed, as is how the site relates to others of similar periods in and around Haverhill. When the Prestige Innovation Centre is built at the centre of the research park, Mr Rumsey pledged it would include a place for the story of the site to be displayed, along with the finds, for the public to visit. After her talk, I caught up with Michelle and I asked her about the site.
We found evidence for late Iron Age and Roman agricultural activity, represented by the remains of field systems and also a roundhouse, probably sort of related to the agricultural activity. And then we found an Anglo-Saxon building, which is there. And also there was an Anglo-Saxon artefact assemblage which was found to the east of the excavation area, so that wasn't found with any below ground features, but suggests that there had been a burial somewhere in the wider vicinity, which has probably been truncated by modern farming activity. This was used for grinding corn, so obviously, and grain, which is obviously indicative of the agricultural activity taking place on site. Roman vase, almost complete. Some greyware, and that's just quite a nice piece of pottery.
And people think Haverhill is a new town. That's all for today, but join us again on Tuesday, and meanwhile keep in touch by going to www.haverhilluk.co.uk or following us on Twitter. And don't forget my weekly Heart of the Matter video blog tomorrow. Now, here is the rather dismal weekend weather.